this quote, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, imagination encircles the world, by Albert Einstein in 1929. The reason why I chose this quote is when I was growing up as a little girl, 10 years, 11 years, it always fascinated me. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. And ChatGPT is good at having hallucinations, but our imagination is more important. And that brings me to architecture. What is architecture? Art and technology. So if we just do technology, just I serve build all the models current state, with no imagination and art, then it gets boring. We can't take it further. So in my world of architecture, enterprise architecture is very, very versatile. We can turn around and we can apply it anywhere, everywhere, for everything. And I like to use the quote from Air Services here. And the way they advertise Air Services is, we are air, we are everywhere, we are invisible, we are also invaluable. So enterprise architecture, I think, is something like that. We can be everywhere, but we are invisible. How many of us actually know who is the architect of Opera House? I don't know. But I know iconic of Australia, Sydney Opera House. So we are architects like that. We become invisible with time, but the work that we do, that's legacy. We are writing history every day. So my favorite words, sizing, scoping, positioning. Anything for that matter. And we are quite elastic. We do the panoramic view. We navigate ambiguity. We make the unknown the known. And we are industry agnostic. That's why we can just operate in so many different industries, and we can be successful at that. Although we get asked, you don't know anything about topic case. You don't know anything about health. How can you're not a doctor, how can you get advices? We do get those questions, but with a click of a finger, we get the expertise, and we are in a position to bring that new perspective that the other current professionals who are working there probably miss it, or can work together and make it happen. So these are my favorite words of enterprise architecture. With that note, I'll take you to the EA in the government, facilitating large-scale transformation. I'll first talk about my Queensland Treasury project, and this goes back to 2012. I wasn't even a TOGAF certified architect at that stage. And this work, it still stands the test of time. I did this, these are just screenshots from the work that was done there. That's my ECM roadmap. So talking about the context there, in Queensland Treasury, Queensland Treasury was still small, around 1,000 people. Previously to that, they had implemented EDOCS 4.2. It was a terrible disaster. $9 million spent. No one wants to use it. No one likes records. They're accountants. They love numbers. They love spreadsheets. Talk to them about record keeping. Last thing on the list. So when I spoke to them, they said, I don't want to keep records. I know it's important. Some records are, we need to keep them for eternity, but I don't want to do that. So I said, it's a requirement that no one wants to maintain these records. And, the executive, the CEO said, we need to bring the cost down. We can't afford $9 to $10 million for the implementation, and, TRIM is there, all sorts of other lovely records management tools are there, and said, they're not going to use it. It'll be another disaster. So I did my research, and I shortlisted Microsoft SharePoint. Back then, it was largely compliant, but it did not do the records management component. That was missing. The 12%, the red thing in the sector graph was missing, and I did the our usual research analysis, etc. And I found a nice plugin, Record Point, down in New South Wales. They did not have the license to work or sell the tool in Queensland. So that was a big stumbling block. And there was still a new company then, just 2 years in its running. They didn't even have the required finance about the indemnity insurance and all that. But that product is a beautiful plugin, and that could solve our problem. So I worked with the Queensland Government Chief Procurement Office, and then worked with the vendor, helped them get through the process of getting the certification, putting them on the standard of arrangements, and that product is in, was on the panel, did all the work, this is our roadmap, it is implemented today. Record Point SharePoint combination, it's a fantastic piece. And I just would like to quote one more thing. I don't know how many of you know Jules Verne. He's a Russian fiction writer. He wrote books back in the 1824. You may wonder, what am I doing reading 1824? books, He wrote about going to the Mars, going around the moon, coming back to Earth. And those books were actually used by the engineers and the technologists to develop the spacecrafts. So, which is what I say, imagination is more important than knowledge. And here that imagination, we have made it happen. And it's rare in the life of an architect to see your product realized. And this is one of those examples where the roadmap was done, it was transition, it was also implemented. So, one good example.
We're making customer payments to government simpler.
Why can't I make one payment for all government services? It seems to take so long to process payments. Some services I can do online while some are at the counter.
I can't disperse and settle funds consistently. There must be a better way to process payments received by post. How do we get rid of PCI DSS compliance issues?
I can't help anyone, the technology is all outdated. Scaling, patching, integration problems. Ugh. No centralized search also. What do I do?
Getting customer payment data seems to take forever. Do we really need so many different service fees? Cost of payment processing exceeds cost of products sometimes.
Global payment industry trends across the financial sectors were studied and analyzed to determine the payment trends and payment types.
We applied global standards and best practice to transform payments. Global industry has a low maturity in terms of a payment platform. This became the breeding ground for innovations.
First government payment strategy for Australia.
First customer payment policy once published.
First to develop global benchmarked governance technology principles.
First world-leading transaction-based pricing model developed.
First agency to provide an omni-payment solution with real-time disbursements.
Real-time settlement of funds and reconciliation is so awesome with the new tools.
I can pay all my bills so easily and quickly. Omni-channel payment experience is fantastic.
I get payment data instantly, so no more time wasted with unnecessary debt collection. Simplified service fees are so much easier to work with.
With this digital technology I can help anybody. It scales, is modular, secure, very robust and fantastic.
So they were the three examples I thought I'll talk to you about Queensland government. And that takes me to in the future of social enterprises as a community leader. I've been a community leader largely from the Indian ethnic groups that we manage, having come as a migrant. For over 25 years I've been a community leader, just passionate about one or the other thing. And back in India also we were doing similar things like that. And what have I done? Driving social transformation. It's not enough just we do in the government, we have a lot of free time and more passion, so we'll transform the society. Adopted a shared services model. I've been in Queensland, exclusively Queensland government with various departments for a really long time, and we become part of the puzzle. And shared services model I thought is a fantastic thing because there are so many several communities who can't afford a website. And if they build one, after 1 year, they can't maintain the subscription and the website dies. So if we have a shared service model in the community, in the society, then we can leverage it at a cheaper cost. There could be specialized ICT staff who can look after the website. It could be on the cloud, all of those things. And even Microsoft technologies. So we adopted the shared service model. And then leverage policy insight for community impact. So what I've seen in the communities, there are a lot of adversities. There is no governance, there are no rules. I am the boss. If you don't listen to me, out you go. You build your own community, and that's why the number of communities keep growing. And we have more than 65,000 charities in Australia, and more than 11% of them are in Melbourne. We are not that bad, we are good people in Queensland here. And we started engaging those local leaders and influencers who could actually bring a difference to the social transformation that is being happening. And sometimes in my LinkedIn post you say, okay, I met so-and-so person, I met so-and-so person, and we are actually talking about the charitable improvements we are bringing into the society, and we are actually mirroring the government objectives. How are we mirroring the government objectives? Adapt strategic frameworks to community needs. In 2014 and 2015, Queensland government had open data back then. We all used to go to this 111 George, which has been demolished. Sorry, the 100 George, which has been demolished. The building doesn't exist now. we would go there and we would listen to about this open data. What is this open data? And then in the charity world, we have actually utilized open data and we are able to provide some insights back to the government so they can prioritize their needs from a community perspective, not just from an IT perspective or not just from what the business wants. And our social leaders, like our councillors, our Minister for Employment or Minister for Transport, they have been big advocates for that. And using technology for accessibility and engagement. Like Microsoft is a very expensive tool. Not everyone is rich enough to buy it for their personal use. And from a charity perspective, we are offering Microsoft tools and technologies and several other hi-fi technologies for use and learning to improve the public trust through transparency and inclusion, bringing more people in, helping them with the journey. So what has it finally led to? Promoting financial and social empowerment. So many people, especially migrants and students who come here, the first job in Australia is really a nutcracker. I didn't have to go through this, but several of my friends went through this problem, the pain points. They don't get that pseudo-corporate environment or that culture to segue, and then they'll always have this soft spot, I'm more qualified, I can do a better job, but I don't get that opportunity, and they end up in other roles. So there is stagnation of careers, which has also been observed because of the population and the small size that we are. So this has helped with social empowerment, and not everyone wants to dance and sing, so they can leverage their skills in other aspects. So we are one of probably the only charity that's offering STEM services in a charitable manner across Australia and New Zealand. And we measure and communicate our impact. So what is this charity about? The Basava Samiti Asia Pacific Limited. This was a charity that was established in 2020 during COVID. We all had a lot of free time. I had a lot of free time too. I still do. And this charity was established, so it's the only international charity which has come from this background where we tried to bring in community groups that were operating in isolation across Australia. And now the charity has brought in 5 chapters in the first year. And in the third year, we have onboarded another 3 chapters. So we are operating in all the capital cities of Australia and Cairns. And I also say Canberra, even though the population is quite small there. And then we operate in New Zealand. So we engage, educate, empower, and enlighten. And there are some of the examples of the photos. Got a call from the Honourable Speaker of House of Representatives, Mr. Milton Dick, to have a quick chat about our charity. And then he came over when he was in Queensland, he just invited us to Chesapeake's office, so we had a little chat. And then that's one with multicultural Queensland with the current Premier. Back then he was the opposition leader, the Honourable David Christopher, and with JP. So we've also introduced the Learn to Grow program, Ask Me series, where professionals like yourselves can come and talk to the people in the community who are in need of some advice, some guidance, and something to look up to. And we have so many ethnicities representing in our charity. And in the last couple of months, we have been able to award 9 jobs in the universities, in Woolworths, data engineers, all sorts of jobs, because they get that incubation period where we train them with the communication technology, and so it goes. So you may now wonder, what has that got to do with architecture? Isn't it? How did all that happen? In 2021, I was the president of the Basava Samiti of Australasia, and then I had the opportunity of developing a roadmap in the philosophy sector. And someone said, Girija, come on, you've got 3 days, do a roadmap for this. I said, what are you talking about? A roadmap for philosophy? Put my TOGAF hat on, put the pestle, the pestle thing. I did all the analysis, and I presented this paper, and that became the foundation step for the charity. So on YouTube, I just record the paper there. And why Basava philosophy? Because Basava philosophy is a philosophy that was given to the people. It's completely democratic, and it is, it's been maintained by folklore. It's over 1,000 years old, but it's been maintained by folklore, and there was no standardization, and it was hard to explain to people what the philosophy actually meant, and people came up with their own interpretations. So this roadmap really helps in, I had to do the vision for standardization, putting some guardrails so that the philosophy gets move to the right spot. It's probably the first time you're hearing TOGAF and philosophy. And you may think it's just another paper, another colorful printout, but it's not. Because it talks about the key actions, the benefits, and the strategy. And the Basava Samiti of Asia Pacific Limited is built on that roadmap. And the success to the charity is grown 300% now in the second year, and with over 900% in the volunteers and professionals working for the charity. And 100% owned by volunteers. It has gained a lot of community attention, and we are hosting our second convention in Perth, and the charity got inaugurated in Auckland, completely using the governance, administration, shared services model, and all the knowledge I've gained in Queensland government and applying enterprise architecture. So enterprise architecture really works. Then I come to adapting EA to family and personal life. So how, architecting the self, that's most important. If we can't architect ourselves, how can we architect organizations? So this charity and this, even the dream of becoming an enterprise architect, it goes back to 2008, and I did the right training, had the right opportunities. I kept finding my ways into it to become one because I wanted to do one. And then before I took on the actual leadership role in the community, I knew that I'm an engineer. I don't have my, finance is not my strength. Accounting is not my strength. So just when I had to do that, I took my financial training program. I learned that. And I also did the board readiness program. When I came into this ACNC registered charity, I thought, oh my God, I have not done this. There's a shortage. So I did that program. And I did some courses on graphics designing and video editing and event management, mentoring and leadership coaching. And when I've been through several adversities in life, especially in this charity, all sorts of varieties, because no one likes change, and we are architects, we love to bring change. We are transforming societies, and we are transforming communities and organizations. So, and sometimes, I used to nag Christy Cotter and say, Christy, I'm in problem. Can you get me some mentor or something? And then she used to recommend, have a read of this book, have a read of that book. And balancing family commitments at home and outside of home. As migrants, our home is almost all over the globe. We've got family all over, everywhere. Balancing everything and managing time, and I'm really good at multitasking. I can do at least 3 to 4 tasks at once. I've just gained that experience and expertise as a mother. And sometimes we are lucky to have good employers, and I have some special mention to Stephen Rex, my boss at Queensland Education, who has been very kind to help me multitask and been very supportive. I need to go here, I need to do that, and he's always given me that space. So thank you, Stephen. And I also thank Jan Dalton, who is not here. She's the Queensland Treasury's director, who at that time Treasury budget was very tight, and she could send only one person on the TOGAF course, $4,500, a lot of money. And she chose me, Girija, you go. If she hadn't done that, I wouldn't be where I am today. And Kirsty Calder from Hudson, she's been part of my journey, my ups and downs, and I think she is just like another friend who walks with me in my weird adventures and experiments that I keep doing in life. And myself as a differentiator, EA is modular, so should we be. We are scalable, human-centered focus, and I'm always outcome-oriented approach, and I take a purpose-driven structure. I do cross-sector collaboration, I do rapid prototyping, and provide the feedback loop. I've demonstrated impact through outcomes through outcome-based design. Yes, the current state is not built. Yes, the iServer has got a lot of gaps. But if we start building the current state and get the CMDB right and get the iServer right, then we would have to, I'll think of the Jules Verne's book and the first voyage to moon. It took 115 years, if not more. So we could be in that situation. So what I do is, what is just in time here? What is that I can do today? How do I navigate? How do I bring change? What do I give to the people who need it? And then we are our best advocates. And that's what I try to do. That's my differentiator. And I try to bring efficiency and social impact in my communication. So in the closing note, I say, Lessons learned, I say purpose in life, even while raising kids, what's your objective? Put a framework for everybody, a framework. And then scope. We are elastic, we should have a scope. We can't go off our guardrails, otherwise our life will have tremendous lessons that we can't rectify. Positioning and spearhead the ambiguous, that's my passion, you know. Something unknown, give it to me. I'll try to make the unknown to the known. And my last closing note is, we build too many walls and not enough bridges. Sir Isaac Newton. And I think every one of us agree with that. And as enterprise architects, we are here to build bridges, which is why I have the story bridge over there. So thank you everybody for taking time to listen to my talks, and I'm happy to take any questions.